"You think I don't know what you are," she said, standing in her driveway in a $1,000 blazer, voice cold enough to cut glass. "You're a handyman. You fix things for people like me. That's all this is." Daniel didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at her. This woman who ran a company worth $40 million and couldn't hold her daughter's hand without checking her phone first, and said quietly, "Yes, ma'am, that's all this is." He picked up his toolbox and walked back to the broken fence. And she stood there alone in her perfect driveway, suddenly unable to move. If a story like this speaks to something in your chest, subscribe to this channel and follow Daniel all the way to the end. Drop a comment right now and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to see exactly how far this story travels. The morning it started, Daniel Mercer burned his hand on the coffee pot. Not badly, just enough to matter. He was pouring into a thermos one-handed because his other hand was already holding Noah's lunchbox, his keys, his phone with 3 unread texts from a contractor who owed him $400 and kept finding reasons not to pay. He hissed, set the pot down, ran his hand under cold water for 30 seconds, and then kept moving. That was the thing about Daniel's life. You kept moving. You didn't have the option of stopping in the middle of the kitchen and letting the burn be what it was. Because there was a boy down the hall who needed breakfast, and a truck that needed to leave by 6:15, and a job that had been slow this month in the way that made him do math in his head at 2 in the morning dividing the numbers and not liking what they said. He wrapped his hand in a dish towel, made Noah's eggs called down the hallway twice, and when Noah finally appeared still in pajamas, hair sideways, dragging his backpack by one strap, Daniel felt the specific fullness that had no name, the kind that lives in the chest and is too large and too quiet to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it themselves. "You burned your hand," Noah said immediately. "I'm fine. You're using the dish towel. You only use the dish towel when you don't want me to see." Daniel looked at his son. 9 years old. His mother's eyes. His father's refusal to be fooled. "Eat your eggs," Daniel said. Noah sat down and ate his eggs and watched his father move around the kitchen with the careful attention of a child who has learned that his father's silences are a language. He was learning to be fluent in it. The call came at 6:11. Unknown number. Whitfield Hollow area code. Daniel almost sent it to voicemail. He was loading the truck thermos under one arm, tarp half folded over the tailgate, hand still throbbing slightly under the glove he'd pulled on. He answered. "Is this Mercer Repairs?" The voice was controlled in a way that took effort. He could hear the effort. "It is," he said. "My name is Catherine Hale. I need a fence repaired, possibly replaced. 2 contractors have already looked at it, and both said it was outside their scope. I need someone who can actually assess it and give me a number today, not next week, today." What happened to it? "A delivery truck took the corner too wide on my easement road 2 weeks ago. The driver's insurance is disputing liability. I have a property line issue that my attorney says could become complicated if the fence stays down. I need it fixed." "When do you need me there?" "Now would be ideal. 8 is acceptable." He checked the time. 6:11. Whitfield Hollow was 40 minutes away. "I can do 8, he said. "I'll need to see it before I give you a number." "Obviously," she said, and then a half-second pause, almost too brief to catch "thank you." She hung up. Daniel finished loading the truck, drove Noah to school, watched his son walk through the front doors without looking back, because Noah had decided this year that looking back was something younger kids did. Daniel looked back for both of them. Then he drove toward Whitfield Hollow. The gate was open. The assistant Catherine had mentioned wasn't there. What was there was the fence, and it was worse than a truck clipping a corner. The east property line had partially collapsed along a 30-foot section. 3 posts were leaning badly, the concrete footings cracked underneath. The wire mesh had torn and folded back on itself, and somewhere in the mess someone had already tried to zip tie part of it back up, a temporary fix that had made everything slightly worse. Post rot had set into the base of 2 of them. This wasn't just truck damage. This fence had been struggling before the truck ever touched it. He walked the line slowly. He crouched. He pressed. He made notes. He was reading the second post's base when he heard heels on gravel. "You're not the man I called." He didn't stand up. He finished what he was doing, made the note, and then straightened and turned. Catherine Hale was not what he expected, and he couldn't have said exactly what he'd expected. She was in her mid-40s, charcoal blazer phone in hand, and she had the specific kind of exhaustion that money cannot fix, because money was never the problem to begin with. She was looking at him the way you look at a flight that has landed in the wrong city. "Marcus subcontracts overflow to me when he's booked," Daniel said. "He's booked." "I called Marcus specifically. I understand that. I can do the job Marcus would have done, and I'll be honest with you in a way that Marcus sometimes isn't." Her eyes sharpened. "What does that mean?" "It means this fence had problems before that truck hit it. 2 of these posts were already rotting at the base. Whoever inspected them last either didn't look carefully or didn't want to tell you what they found. I'll tell you what I find, even if it costs more than what you want to hear." A pause, long enough to have weight. "Come to the house at 8:30, she said. "I'll hear the number then." She turned and walked back. He went back to the posts. Yeah, the number he brought to the door was fair, and the moment he showed it to her, he could tell she knew it was fair because her expression did not do what expressions do when people are looking for a place to negotiate. She studied it. She looked up. "This is lower than the estimates I already got. The other estimates probably included contingency padding," he said. "I price what I see. If I find something I didn't expect, I call you before I touch it. You decide how to proceed. I don't run the meter while you're deciding." "Why not?" she said, and it was a genuine question, not suspicious, genuinely wanting to know. "Because that's not how I'd want to be treated," he said. She looked at him for a moment that lasted slightly longer than a business moment should. "Start today," she said. "I was planning to." Something crossed her face, not quite a smile, the shape of one. "Do you need anything from the house?" "Spigot access. That's enough." "South side," she said, and went back inside. He was setting the first new footing at 11:40 when the girl appeared. She came around the corner of the house with the particular energy of someone who had been watching for a while and finally decided to stop pretending otherwise. 11, maybe 12. Dark eyes. Her mother's precision, but with the edges still soft, still unguarded. "You pulled out all 3 posts," she said. "The third one looked okay from the outside," Daniel said. "It wasn't." "How could you tell?" "Put your hand on the wood at the base. If it gives even a little, the rot is already inside." He paused. "You want to try it on that one?" He pointed to a removed post lying on the ground. She walked over and pressed her palm against it. The wood gave under her hand. "Oh," she said quietly. "Things that look solid aren't always solid," he said. "And things that look broken aren't always as broken as they seem." She looked at him. He hadn't meant it as anything more than a comment about fences, but she heard something else in it. He could see her hear it. "I'm Lily," she said. "Daniel. Do you want a sandwich? I made 3. There are only 2 of us for lunch, and Mom doesn't eat enough when she's on calls." He had a lunch in the truck. He'd packed one because he always packed one, because you did not put yourself in the position of needing something from someone you were working for. It was a rule he'd made and kept. "Sure," he said. She came back with a turkey sandwich on a plate with a real napkin under it folded in half and a glass of water with ice. She handed him both like it was completely natural, like she'd been feeding people who were working in her yard her whole life. He ate standing up. She watched him. "You have a kid," she said. "What makes you say that?" She pointed at his thermos. The Minecraft sticker. Noah had pressed it on 3 months ago, tongue between his teeth concentrating. Daniel had never taken it off. "A son?" he said. "He's 9. "Where is he?" "Oh, school." "Does he come with you sometimes?" "On shorter jobs, after school." She nodded slowly. "Mom used to bring me with her," she said. "To the office. When Dad first left and she didn't want to leave me with a sitter. She paused. I used to sit in the conference room and draw. She'd come check on me between meetings, every 40 minutes exactly. Daniel was quiet. She stopped bringing me, Lily said, when she decided I was old enough to stay alone. Another pause. I was 9. He looked at her. She was looking at the fence. 9 is old enough for some things, he said carefully. Not everything. No, she said. Not everything. At 1:15 he heard Catherine's voice through the kitchen window, not words. Tone. The controlled, precise tone of a woman receiving information she does not want and processing it in real time without allowing herself the reaction she is having. He recognized that tone. He had heard it in his own voice in hospital corridors 4 years ago, talking to doctors, answering questions steadily, because there was a 5-year-old boy in the next room who was already frightened enough for both of them. Then silence. Then quieter. I understand. No, I understand completely. Thank you for telling me directly. A long pause. Nothing. He worked. Mixed concrete, checked levels. He gave her voice all the privacy a wall couldn't give it. But 15 minutes later, the back door opened, and Catherine walked to the far corner of the yard to where the fence line had been and stopped, arms crossed, jaw set, looking at nothing. She was not on her phone. She was not doing anything. She was just standing in the posture of a person who has made a decision not to break and is holding that decision in place with sheer will. Daniel kept working. After 2 full minutes, he noticed, because he was timing his concrete, he said without looking up, "There's a post that needs someone to hold it steady while I check the angle. If you've got a minute." A silence. "I'm not dressed for this," she said. "You're just holding it still. You don't have to dig anything." Another pause, shorter. Then the sound of heels on grass. Deliberate. Careful. She came and stood where he pointed, and she wrapped both hands around the post with the kind of grip that said she'd decided to do the thing completely or not at all. He checked the angle. Level in one direction, off by a 1/4 inch in the other. He adjusted, checked again. Level. There, he said. She let go, stepped back, looked at her hands, which now had concrete dust on them. "I don't usually do this kind of work," she said. "I know. Does it bother you when people say that?" He considered it honestly. "No," he said. "Everyone's got their own kind of work. I just know mine." She looked at him again with that measuring look. "The call," she said quietly, not explaining, not asking for anything, just the call. "You don't have to tell me," he said. "I know I don't." She paused. "The board is removing me from my own company. Constructive dismissal, they're calling it, which is a legal term for they found a way to make me want to leave." She paused again. "I built that company for 11 years. I started it in my second bedroom with a laptop and a phone and a daughter who didn't sleep through the night." She stopped. Daniel didn't say, "I'm sorry." He'd learned that "I'm sorry" was sometimes just something people said to close a door. Instead, he said, "And Lily." Catherine turned her head. "What about Lily? Does she know a beat?" "No." "She's going to notice something's wrong," he said. "She already does. She's been watching you through the kitchen window for the last hour." Catherine turned and looked at the house. In the kitchen window, visible for just a moment, was the shape of Lily, not spying, just present. Near. The way children are near when they sense their parent needs them and haven't been taught yet that adults call that space something unwelcome. Catherine's jaw tightened, but her eyes did something different. Something cracked slightly, the way ice cracks in spring, not breaking, just opening. "She doesn't need to worry about this," Catherine said. "She already is," Daniel said. "Worrying alone is harder." Catherine looked at him. "Do you speak from experience?" He met her eyes. "Every day," he said. Hog. Noah arrived at 4:10, backpack dragging cheeks, flushed from walking 6 blocks faster than necessary. He stopped at the gate, assessed the situation with a 9-year-old's complete confidence, and announced, "Dad, that's galvanized mesh. The new kind. Good choice." Get in the gate, Daniel said. I know, stay on the driveway. Noah stepped inside, looked at the progress, nodded with the authority of someone who had watched this work done enough times to have opinions about it. You set 3 footings today. 2.5, Daniel said. Last one needs more time. You should have started earlier. I started at 8. Earlier than 8. Daniel looked at his son. Inside that statement is a lesson you will understand when you have your own business. Noah considered this, decided it was probably true, and let it go. Catherine appeared in the doorway. She looked at Noah the way people sometimes look at children of single fathers, with a specific and unguarded kind of tenderness, seeing both the child and the shape of everything that made the child. You must be Noah, she said. Yes, ma'am, Noah said with a politeness that Daniel had worked on. Your fence was already struggling before the truck hit it. Dad says things that look solid sometimes aren't. Catherine blinked. She looked at Daniel. He was watching his son with the expression of a man who has long since given up trying to prepare for the things that come out of that particular mouth. He's right, Catherine said. It was. Dad fixes things that were already struggling, Noah said, completely matter of fact. Not just the new damage. He goes back to where the problem actually started. The silence that followed lasted 4 full seconds. Daniel picked up his level and pretended to check something that didn't need checking. There's snacks, Catherine said to Noah. Lily's inside. She's been wanting someone to argue with about fractions. Noah's face lit up. He loved arguing about math. It was perhaps his greatest pleasure. Okay, he said, and walked toward the house like it was a place he'd been before, with the open-hearted confidence of a child who has not yet learned to be afraid of belonging somewhere new. Catherine watched him go. Then she looked at Daniel, and the look on her face was something he recognized in the way you recognize something you haven't seen in a very long time and didn't realize you'd missed. She was seeing him, not his work, not his estimate, not his usefulness. Him. He goes back to where the problem actually started, she said softly, repeating Noah's words, turning them over. Daniel cleared his throat and looked at the fence. I'll be back at 6:30 tomorrow, he said. Pour the last footing before the temperature drops. 6:30, she said. He packed his tools. He collected his son from the kitchen where Noah and Lily were in the middle of what appeared to be a deeply satisfying argument about whether fractions or decimals were morally superior. He said goodbye to Catherine at the door. She said, "Thank you, for today." He said, "I didn't finish." She said, "I know, I'm not talking about the fence." Pause. He drove home in the thick of the early dark, Noah asleep in the passenger seat inside 12 Minutes cracker still in his hand. Daniel drove and didn't think about Catherine Hale. He drove and didn't think about the way she'd gripped the post, like she'd decided to do it completely. He didn't think about what she'd said about 11 years and a second bedroom and a daughter who didn't sleep through the night. He didn't think about the way she had said, "I understand," into a phone in the specific voice of a person choosing not to fall apart. He didn't think about any of it. He thought about the fence. He thought about the third post, the one that looked solid from the outside, that gave under the hand when you pressed it. He thought about how easy it was to drive past something like that, to accept the outside, to not press. He thought about that. He merged onto the highway. The engine hummed. Noah breathed. The burned place on his hand, the one from the coffee pot that morning, had stopped hurting somewhere around noon without him noticing. It occurred to him somewhere between exit 7 and exit 8 that he could not remember the last time something had stopped hurting without him having to work at it. He drove. And Friday was waiting. Daniel came back at 6:28. Not 6:30, 6:28. Because he'd learned a long time ago that showing up 2 minutes early told people something about you that showing up on time didn't. It said, "I thought about this before I arrived." It said you were already in my head before I walked through the gate. He didn't mean it as a signal, it was just how he worked. The gate was already open. Catherine was standing at the kitchen window with a coffee mug when he pulled in, and he could see her through the glass, even though she probably thought she was invisible at that hour. She looked like someone who had not slept well and had decided that looking like someone who had not slept well was not acceptable, so she'd gotten up early enough to fix it. Hair done, blazer on, posture correct. Only the mug gave her away. She was holding it with both hands. You held a coffee mug with both hands when you needed something to hold on to. He unloaded the truck without going to the door. He knew what he was doing. He didn't need to announce himself. He pulled on his gloves, checked the footings from yesterday, felt the concrete fully set solid exactly right, and started laying out the materials for the next phase. He was threading the first section of new mesh when the back door opened. "You're early," Catherine said. "2 minutes," he said. "I noticed." A pause. "Coffee." He looked up. She was holding a second mug. She'd brought it out already, which meant she'd made it before she came outside, which meant she'd planned to offer it before she even knew if he was here yet. "Thank you," he said. She came and set it on top of the toolbox, which was the only flat surface available, and that small, practical problem-solving. "Where do I put this here?" was somehow more comfortable than any careful gesture would have been. She stood for a moment. She didn't make conversation. She watched him work, and she did it the way Lily had done it yesterday, openly, without pretending she was doing something else. "You sleep?" he asked without looking up. "Some," she said. "The board meeting, is it final?" "There's a shareholder vote in 3 weeks," she said. "But yes, it's final." A beat. "I just haven't told anyone yet. Except apparently you." He looked at her then. "Why me?" She thought about it for a moment. Really thought, not reaching for an easy answer. "Because you're going to be here for 3 days, and then you're going to leave," she said. "And you don't know anyone I know. And yesterday, you didn't say you were sorry. Would that have helped?" "No," she said. "It never does." She looked into the mug. "Everyone says they're sorry, and then they tell you what they think you did wrong. At least with you, I just got the silence." "The silence wasn't nothing," he said. "I know," she said. "That's why." She went back inside. Daniel drank the coffee. It was good coffee, the kind made by someone who paid attention to small things. He went back to the fence, and the morning opened up around him quiet and deliberate, the way good work mornings do. He had been at it for 40 minutes when he heard the argument. Not loud, not explosive. The specific pressurized kind of argument that happens between a mother and a daughter who are both too smart and too alike, and both know it. The voices came through the kitchen window. Catherine's controlled Lily's pushing against the control, testing it. "I'm not a child," Lily said. "I know you're not," Catherine said. "Then stop making decisions about my life without telling me things." "I'm not making decisions about your life. I'm managing my own situation. Your situation is my situation, Mom. We live in the same house. When you don't sleep, I don't sleep. When something's wrong, I feel it. You think I don't, but I do." A pause. "I know you do," Catherine said, and her voice was different. The control had shifted, become something more careful, more fragile. "So, tell me," Lily said. "Whatever it is, just tell me." Silence. Daniel kept working. He was not listening. He was simply in proximity to truth. He had no business hearing, and he gave it as much quiet respect as he could by keeping his hands moving and his eyes on the fence. Then Lily's voice again lower. "Is it about Dad?" "No," Catherine said immediately. "This has nothing to do with your father." "Is it money? We're fine." "Is it the company?" A pause that lasted 1 second too long to be nothing. "Lily, it's the company." Not a question. "What happened to the company?" Daniel set down the wire cutter. He picked it back up. He did not need to hear the answer. He already understood what the next few weeks of Catherine Hale's life were going to look like, and he understood it the way he understood damaged fence posts from the outside. You couldn't always see it, but when you pressed, you felt the give. You felt where the rot had started, and you knew. The argument inside went quiet. Then the back door opened, and Lily came out. Not running, Just walking fast in the way of someone who needs to be moving but doesn't want to admit they need to be moving. She stopped when she saw Daniel. "She told you," Lily said. Statement. "Yesterday," he said. "Some of it." "She doesn't tell people things," Lily said. "She didn't tell me, and I'm her daughter. She was protecting you." "I don't want to be protected," Lily said. "I want to know what's real." Daniel set down the pliers. He looked at Lily directly the way he looked at Noah when Noah deserved a real answer instead of a managed one. "Sometimes the people who love you most," he said, "protect you from things before they've figured out how to carry the thing themselves. It's not that they don't trust you. It's that they don't want to hand you something heavy before they've had a chance to decide if it's worth picking up." Lily was quiet. "Is she going to lose the company?" she asked. "I think she already has," he said. "What I don't know is what she's going to build next." Lily looked at the fence, at the new posts straight and clean and set deep. "You go back to where the problem actually started," she said, using Noah's words from yesterday. "I try to," he said. She nodded slowly like something was settling. "I'm going to go talk to her," she said. "Good," he said. She went back inside. 2 minutes later, Daniel heard Catherine's voice through the window, and this time it was not controlled. It was quiet. The quieter thing. The real thing. He kept working, and he felt without examining it too closely that something in that house had shifted. Something that had been leaning like a post under too much pressure had been allowed to come down gently instead of collapsing. That was worth more than the fence. But he wasn't going to say that to anyone. He just kept working. At 9:40, a car came through the gate without calling ahead. Daniel heard the engine before he saw it. A black Mercedes, clean and new, the kind of car that was selected specifically to communicate something. A man got out who moved the same way, like he had decided something about himself a long time ago and had been proving it ever since. Late 40s, expensive jacket. The easy, practiced confidence of someone who had learned that most rooms rearrange themselves when he walked in. He looked at the fence, then at Daniel, then at the fence again. "Contractor," he said. "That's right," Daniel said. "Where's Catherine?" "Inside." The man walked toward the house without another word. Daniel watched him. He didn't know who this was, but the way the man had looked at the fence, not at the work, not at the quality, but at the length of it, the property line, the footprint told him something. He was measuring. Not the fence. The land. Check. Daniel found out who he was at noon when Catherine came outside, and her face told the whole story before her mouth opened. "That was Richard Hale," she said. "Your ex-husband." Lily's father. A pause. "He heard about the board situation." "How?" "Because he has a friend on the board," she said. "He always has a friend somewhere." She crossed her arms. "He wants to revisit the custody arrangement. He says this is evidence of instability." Daniel stopped. He turned fully toward her. "The fence," he said. "No," she said. "Losing the company. He says a mother in professional crisis is a mother who isn't present. His attorney sent an email this morning." She stopped. Her jaw was set. But her eyes were doing the thing they had done yesterday at the property line, holding something in place by sheer decision. "Lily is 12. She's not a toddler. She can tell anyone in a courtroom exactly how present I am." "Have you told Lily about this part?" "No," Catherine said too quickly. "She'll find out." "I know she will." "From you is better than from him." Catherine looked at him sharply. "I know that, Daniel." It was the first time she'd used his name. Both of them noticed it. She turned away slightly. "He also made an offer," she said. "On the property." Daniel waited. "He wants to buy out my share of this house. He says the market is good right now, and splitting the asset makes sense given my changing financial situation." She said the last 3 words the way you say something that someone else said, and you are quoting it without agreeing to it. What he means is he's watching to see if I'm going to fall, and he wants to be positioned to catch the pieces. Daniel said nothing for a moment. Then, "What did you say?" "I said I'd think about it." She looked at him. "Which I won't." "Good," he said. "You don't even know the offer." "Doesn't matter," he said. "Some things you don't sell even when the number sounds reasonable." She stared at him. "You sound very certain about that." "My wife's parents wanted to buy back her grandmother's house the year after she died," he said. "They said the market was good. They said it was practical. They had 10 reasons that all made sense." He paused. "I still live in that house. Noah grew up in it. That's not a number." Catherine went completely still. He hadn't talked about Sarah in a long time. Not to anyone who wasn't Noah. The words had come out before he'd decided to say them, the way things came out sometimes when you had been careful for so long that the carefulness cracked for just a moment. "I'm sorry," Catherine said, quietly, not filling the space with it, just placing it there. "Don't be," he said. "It's how I know what I'm talking about." A silence that held itself with respect. Then his phone buzzed. He looked at it. A text from Noah's school. Early dismissal, a water main issue, parents notified. "I have to go get my son," he said. "Of course," she said. "I'll be back this afternoon. 2 hours." "Daniel." He had turned toward the truck. He stopped. She was looking at the fence at the section still unfinished, and then she looked at him. "You don't have to come back today. The concrete needs to set anyway." "The mesh doesn't," he said. 2 hours. She nodded. He drove. Noah was at the front of the school when Daniel pulled up, sitting on his backpack, talking to another kid. The moment he saw the truck, he stood up and ended the conversation mid-sentence with the clean social confidence of a kid who knew what mattered and moved toward it. He got in, buckled his seatbelt, said, "Can I come with you?" "You don't know where I'm going." "The fence job," Noah said. "Lily showed me where they keep the good crackers." Daniel looked at his son. "The mesh still needs to go up," Noah said. "I can hold the tension line while you clip. You always say it's harder alone." "I always say that," Daniel agreed. "So?" Daniel pulled out of the lot. "We stop for lunch first," he said. "The sandwich lady will make us something," Noah said. "She's not the sandwich lady. She's a person in her home." "She made sandwiches," Noah said. "She put the napkin folded. That's a sandwich lady." Daniel said, "You're not wrong." Noah said, "I know." "Sure." They were back at this property by 1:15. Noah went straight for the gate with his hand raised in greeting toward the house in case anyone was watching, which they were because Lily was at the window again and came outside immediately. "You brought him," she said to Daniel about Noah. "He invited himself," Daniel said. "Good," Lily said and looked at Noah. "I found a mistake in that fractions worksheet." "I knew it," Noah said. "I told you sevens don't work that way." They went inside. Daniel looked at Catherine, who had come to the door. "I hope it's all right," he said. "Lily has been sighing loudly for 2 hours," Catherine said. "Whatever the opposite of a problem is, this is it." He smiled. Not a full one. The small, steady kind. She almost smiled back. "Lily talked to me," she said. "This morning. After she came back inside." A pause. "She said you told her I was protecting her." "Something like that." "She said—" Catherine stopped, pressed her lips together, started again. "She said she didn't need protecting. She said she needed real." Her voice was controlled, but only just. 12 years old. She said, "Mom, I need you to give me real." Daniel was quiet. "I don't know when she got so—" Catherine stopped again. "She grew up watching you," Daniel said. "She learned from the best source available." Catherine looked at him. Her jaw worked once. She nodded slightly, looked away, composed herself with the practice of someone who had done it 10,000 times. "The mesh," she said. "Right," he said. "Noah can really help." "He's held tension lines since he was 6, Daniel said. "He's better at it than most grown men I've hired." She watched him walk toward the fence, pull on his gloves, start laying out the materials with the calm efficiency of someone who exists most fully when the work is in front of him. Daniel, she said. He looked back. I called 3 contractors before I called Marcus, she said. All 3 gave me estimates. Not one of them mentioned that the posts were already rotting. She paused. Not one. He held her gaze. I'm not trying to... She stopped. I just think you should know that I notice things, even when I don't say them. He nodded. He went back to the fence. And Catherine stood in the doorway of her house for a moment longer than was strictly necessary, watching a man who had come to fix a fence teach her daughter to press her palm against the wood right at the base and feel for the give, feel for where the rot had started. Learn to tell the difference between something broken and something that just needed someone who knew where to look. She stayed until she couldn't stand still anymore. Then she went inside and called her attorney. Not about Richard. Not about the custody arrangement. About the shareholder vote. She had 3 weeks and she was not done yet. And somehow, without being able to say exactly why, she felt steadier than she had yesterday. Not fixed. Not resolved. Just steadier. Like a post that's been reset. Concrete still setting, but straight, exactly level, and holding. The fence was nearly finished by Saturday morning. Daniel had been at it 3 days, and the work showed not in a showy way. Not in a way that announced itself, but in the quiet, solid way that good work always shows. The posts were straight. The mesh was tight. The whole line ran clean and true along the property edge, and if you pressed your hand against any part of it anywhere, it held. He was doing final checks when Catherine came out at 7:15 with 2 coffees and something he hadn't expected. Her hair was down, not dramatically. Not as a statement, just down. Like she'd gotten up and made coffee and come outside before she'd had time to become the version of herself she usually showed to the world. She looked younger this way. She looked tired this way too, but it was a different kind of tired, less defended. She handed him the mug without a word. He took it the same way. They stood at the fence line and looked at what 3 days of work had made. It's good, she said. It'll hold, he said. That's not what I said. He looked at her. I said it's good, she said. There's a difference. He drank his coffee. The gate hardware on the east side is original, he said. The hinges are worn. If you get another hard winter, the gate's going to start dragging. Can you fix that? It's a 2-hour job. Today, he paused. The fence was the job. The fence was done. Anything beyond it was a different conversation, and he could feel that both of them knew it. Today, he said. She nodded, and neither of them said what the other one heard, which was that they had both just agreed to something larger than gate hinges. He went back to work. She went back inside. And the morning moved forward unhurried the way mornings do when something important is happening too slowly to see. Noah had spent the night at his friend Marcus Jr.'s house, which meant Daniel had driven to the job alone for the first time, and the truck had felt different without the boy in the passenger seat, quieter in a way that was not actually quiet at all, because silence has a texture when you're used to it being full. He'd been working for an hour when Lily appeared. She came out with her homework and sat on the back step, which had become over the past 3 days a thing she simply did. Like it was established. Like Daniel working in the yard and Lily doing homework nearby was a pattern that had always existed. Mom's on a call, Lily said. She's been on it since 6. The shareholder vote? Probably. Lily opened her notebook. She's been up since 4:30. I heard her pacing. Daniel kept working. She's fighting for something she built, he said. That takes everything. Did you ever fight for something like that? He considered it honestly. My wife's medical bills, he said. After she died, the insurance company tried to deny 3 months of her treatment costs. Said it was experimental. He paused. It wasn't experimental. It was just expensive. There's a difference. Lily looked up from her notebook. I filed every form. I appealed every denial. I made calls every day for 4 months while raising a 5-year-old alone. He checked the tension on the mesh. They paid it eventually. Did it help? Lily asked. Winning, I mean. Did it make anything better? He thought about that for a moment. Really thought. It made it fair, he said. Better and fair aren't always the same thing, but fair still matters. Lily wrote something in her notebook. He had the feeling she wasn't writing homework. My dad's attorney sent a second email, she said very casually, not looking up. Daniel went still. I know because Mom left her laptop open, Lily said. I wasn't snooping, it was just there. A pause. He's petitioning for primary custody. Temporary, he says, during the period of Mom's professional instability. She said the last two words the way a 12-year-old says adult words that taste wrong in her mouth. That's me. I'm the period of instability. Daniel set down the pliers. He turned and looked at Lily fully. You are not the period of instability, he said. I know that. Her voice was careful. But he's going to stand in front of a judge and say that my mother losing her company makes her less capable of taking care of me. A pause. And maybe a judge believes that. What do I know about judges? Does your mother know you read the email? No. Are you going to tell her? Lily was quiet for a moment. Would you? Yes, he said without hesitation. Because she needs to know what you know. And she needs to know you're okay. And carrying it alone is heavier than carrying it together. Lily looked at him. You're good at this, she said. At what? Saying the thing that's true without making it a lecture. He went back to the gate hinge. I have a 9-year-old, he said. If you lecture, they stop listening. You have to say it like it matters, and then get out of the way. Mom lectures, Lily said. Your mom is scared, he said. Scared people lecture because it feels like control. Lily absorbed that. Are you ever scared? Every day, he said. Of what? He looked at her. That I'm not enough, he said. That the work isn't enough. That Noah needs something I don't know how to give him. That I've been so busy making sure we survive that I've missed something important. He paused. The usual. Lily looked at him for a long moment. You're not missing anything, she said quietly. Noah is he knows you. Like really knows you. You can see it when he talks about you. She paused. My dad talks about me like I'm something that belongs to him. My mom talks about me like I'm someone she's responsible for. You talk about Noah like he's someone you actually want to know. Daniel's throat did something complicated. He picked up the wrench. Go tell your mother about the email, he said. She's stronger than you think, and she needs the chance to prove it. Lily closed her notebook. She went inside without arguing. 2 minutes later, he heard Catherine's call end mid-sentence. What happened next, he would piece together from the sounds alone. A door closing. Not slamming closing with the specific deliberateness of a woman who has decided to have a conversation and is preparing herself for it. Lily's voice short and direct. Catherine's voice sharp with surprise, then going quiet. Then longer silence. The kind that meant something real was being said. He worked through all of it. He was finishing the last bolt on the gate hinge when the back door opened and Catherine came outside. He knew immediately that something had shifted, not broken shifted. She walked toward him, and she was not performing composure. She was just present, in her face and her body and the way she moved, unguarded in a way he hadn't seen yet. She read the email, Catherine said. I know. You told her to tell me. I told her carrying it alone was heavier. Catherine crossed her arms, then uncrossed them, then put her hands in her pockets. She was cycling through the postures of a woman who had run out of safe positions. Richard's attorney is claiming I'm in emotional crisis, she said. That losing the company is evidence I can't provide stability. And I'm not in emotional crisis, she said, and her voice cracked on the last word, which was its own kind of answer. He set down the wrench. Catherine, he said. She held up one hand. The gesture of someone who is asking for 10 seconds. He gave her 10 seconds. She pressed her fingers to her eyes. She breathed. She dropped her hand. I built that company with a toddler on my hip, she said. I nursed contracts in waiting rooms and took investor calls during school plays. I made decisions that cost me sleep for years. And now, 3 men on a board have decided that my vision is no longer aligned with the company's direction, which is a sentence that means, we found someone who will do what you built, but give us more of the money, and Richard is going to use it to say I'm unstable. She stopped. And I can't even be angry in the right way, because if I'm too angry, someone uses that too. Be angry with me, he said. She looked at him. What? Right now, he said. You've got about 4 minutes before Lily comes back outside. Be as angry as you actually are. I won't use it against you. I won't tell anyone. I've held fence posts with you. I think I can hold this. A pause. Then Catherine Hale, CEO, opened her mouth and said exactly what she thought about the board, about Richard, about 11 years in a second bedroom, and every meeting she'd taken at 6 in the morning, and every dinner she'd missed, and every time someone had looked at her work and decided it was now their work. And she said it with a precision and a fury that was not hysterical, not irrational, but sharp and clear and completely deserved. Daniel stood there and held it. When she finished, the yard was very quiet. Feel better? He asked. Marginally, she said. Good enough, he said. Now here's what I think. You've got 3 weeks until the vote. You know that company better than anyone on that board. You know where the bodies are buried, where the value actually lives, and what the story is that would make the shareholders understand what they're actually losing. He paused. Your attorney needs a different kind of ammunition. She looked at him. You're a fence contractor. I'm a man who has fought institutions for what's fair, he said. The tools are different. The fight isn't. Something moved across her face. Something that was not quite hope, but was adjacent to it. What would you do? She said. I'd document everything I built, he said. Every decision, every outcome. I'd make it impossible to tell my story without telling my results. And then I'd find out which shareholders actually care about the company's mission, not just the profit margin. And I'd talk to them directly before the board gets to them. He picked up the wrench again. People vote for what they understand. Make sure they understand your version before they're handed someone else's. Catherine stared at him. Where did you learn that? She said. Insurance company, he said. 4 months. Every form. Every appeal. He tightened the last bolt on the gate hinge. When the institution is bigger than you don't fight it from the outside. You document, you organize, and you find the people inside who know what's right. She was quiet for a long moment. I have 6 shareholders who originally funded the company before the institutional money came in, she said slowly. They believed in the mission. They're not the largest, but they're not insignificant either. Start there, he said. This morning, he said. She took her phone out of her pocket, looked at it, looked at him. Why are you helping me with this? She said. This is not a fence. He opened the gate, tested the swing. It moved smooth and clean, no drag, perfectly balanced. No, he said. But you needed someone to hold the post steady while you checked the angle. He looked at her. That's all I'm doing. She looked at the gate, at the clean swing of it, at the fence behind it, straight and solid. It's good work, she said again. He looked at her. I know, he said. Shakes. He was loading his tools when Richard came back. The black Mercedes came through the gate at 11:15 with the precise timing of a man who had calculated when the contractor would be nearly gone and the house would feel most unsettled. Daniel had met men like this before. They didn't always announce their strategy, but it lived in their timing. Richard got out and looked at the fence with the same measuring look as before. Then he looked at Daniel. Then he looked at the house where Catherine had just appeared in the doorway. Nice work, Richard said to Daniel, the way some men compliment the help to perform their own reasonableness. Daniel said, thanks. Richard turned toward Catherine. You have a minute. I'm on my way out, Catherine said. He blinked. You weren't going anywhere when I pulled in. I am now? She said. She had her bag over her shoulder, keys in hand. She had moved very fast. I just want to talk, Richard said. About Lily. About the arrangement. About being reasonable Catherine, which I think we both want to be. Your attorney's emails are not reasonable, Catherine said. My attorney will respond to them. I'm not here as opposing counsel. I'm here as Lily's father. Then be her father, Catherine said. Call her, take her to dinner, help her with her homework. Don't send legal documents designed to destabilize her mother and call that fatherhood. She walked toward her car, which was parked to the side. She stopped beside Daniel's truck. Lock the gate when you leave, she said to Daniel. The code is on the box. She drove away. Richard stood in the driveway. Daniel kept loading tools. Richard looked at him with the expression of a man recalibrating. You're just the contractor, Richard said, slowly, testing. That's right, Daniel said. How long have you been working here? 3 days. You seem... Richard paused. Comfortable here. Daniel lifted the toolbox into the truck bed. Good fence work takes time, he said. You don't rush it. Richard looked at the fence, at the gate, at the clean straight line of it running along the property edge. She have you doing other work, he said, beyond the fence. Daniel closed the truck bed. He looked at Richard directly, not aggressively, just directly. I'm done here, he said. Have a good day. He got in the truck. He could feel Richard watching him as he backed out, and he let himself be watched because he had nothing to hide and nothing to prove, and there was something in having nothing to prove that was its own kind of power. He pulled onto the street and drove. His phone rang at 1:47. Catherine. The first shareholder meeting is set, she said without preamble. Tuesday at 8. James Whitmore. He was the second person to ever write me a check. He picked up on the second ring. Good, Daniel said. He said he'd been waiting for me to call. Her voice had something in it that hadn't been there before, not quite restored, but moving in that direction. He said he had questions about the board's proposal, and no one had asked him what he thought. People always have questions, Daniel said. Most of the time no one asks. I spent the morning pulling together the documentation, she said. Revenue trajectory, client retention, 3-year plan, the programs that the board wants to cut. She stopped. It's a stronger story than I remembered. I'd been so close to the crisis that I forgot what the whole thing actually looked like. That happens, he said. You get close enough to something and you start seeing what's damaged and forget to look at what's holding. A pause. Are you going to keep doing that, she said. Saying things that apply to more than one situation at a time. He almost smiled. Occupational habit, he said. She was quiet for a moment. The gate, she said. It swings perfectly now. It should, he said. The old hinges had about another season in them, maybe less. You could have just replaced them on day 1, she said. You waited until the fence was done. Sequence matters, he said. You set the structure first, then you address the points of entry. Another pause. Longer. Daniel, she said. Yes. Lily asked me tonight if you were coming back. A pause. I didn't know what to say. He drove for a moment in the silence of that. What did you want to say? He asked. She was quiet long enough that he thought maybe he'd overstepped, that the question was too direct, that he'd misjudged the shape of this. Then, I wanted to say yes, she said. And that felt like something I should tell you before someone else's yes becomes the wrong answer. He was at a red light. He looked at the red without seeing it. I'm not going anywhere, he said. But I'm also not in a hurry. I'm not asking you to be. I know, he said. I just wanted you to know I'm saying it the same way I set posts. Deep, not fast. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. Small and real, and not composed at all. The gate code, she said. You still have it. I do. Don't lose it, she said. She hung up. He sat through the green light for a full 2 seconds before the car behind him reminded him where he was. He drove home. He picked up Noah from Marcus Jr.'s house. He made dinner. He listened to Noah explain in comprehensive detail every single thing that had happened at the sleepover, which took 45 minutes, and which Daniel received with his full attention. And later, when Noah was asleep, and the house was quiet, and the burned place on his hand had long since healed, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, gone cold, and thought about what it meant to set something deep instead of fast. What it meant to address the points of entry only after the structure was solid. What it meant to test the thing at its base, press your palm against it, feel for the give or the hold. He thought about a woman who had gotten up at 4:30 in the morning to fight for something she built. He thought about a girl who said she needed real. He thought about a gate that swung perfectly now. He drank the cold coffee. And tomorrow, whatever it brought, he would be ready for it. Not because he knew what was coming, but because he had learned a long time ago that readiness wasn't about knowing. It was about being the kind of person who showed up. 2 minutes early, every time. The Tuesday shareholder meeting changed things. Daniel knew it changed things, not because Catherine told him the details she didn't, not all of them, but because of how she sounded when she called him at 9:47 that night. She called from her car parked in the driveway, because she'd pulled in and not gone inside yet, and her voice had the specific texture of someone who had been running on adrenaline for 6 hours, and had just felt the ground under their feet again. James Whitmore brought 2 other original shareholders, she said. I was expecting 1 meeting. I got 3. What happened? They listened, she said. For 2 hours they just listened. And then James looked at the board's proposal and said, and I'm quoting directly, "This reads like a document written by people who want the harvest without having planted anything." A pause. I hadn't even used that framing. He found it himself. Daniel was in his kitchen. Noah was asleep. He was standing at the counter because he'd been too focused on the call to find a chair. How many votes does that give you? He said. Not enough alone, she said. But James knows people. He said he'd make 3 calls tonight, the kind of calls that happen before anyone's official position is public. She paused. He also said something else. He said, Catherine, the people who want to take this from you are counting on you being too tired to fight. Don't be tired yet. Good man, Daniel said. He's 73 years old, she said. He started his first company at 40. He said he'd been watching me for 11 years, and that this board move was the most predictable thing he'd ever seen, and he was embarrassed it had taken him this long to say so out loud. Her voice did something complicated on the last sentence. I almost cried in the meeting. Did you? No. Would it have been the end of the world if you had... A pause. Probably not, she said. But old habits. He understood old habits. He had a collection of them himself, most of them built in hospital corridors and insurance offices and school pickup lines where falling apart wasn't available as an option. Lily's been asking about Noah, Catherine said, shifting. He's been asking about her fractions argument, Daniel said. I think he's still bothered that he might have been wrong. He wasn't wrong, Catherine said. Lily admitted it. She just took 4 days to do it. She's her mother's daughter, he said. A silence, not uncomfortable, the kind that had started to feel over the past week like its own form of conversation. Will you come Tuesday? She said. Not for work. There's nothing to fix. A pause. Lily has a school presentation, history project. She's been practicing her opening, and I think she'd want you there. And Noah. She'd want Noah to be difficult about the fractions. Daniel was quiet for a moment. What time? He said. 7, she said. Dinner first, if that's all right. That's all right, he said. She said goodnight. He set down his phone and stood at the counter for a while longer than he needed to. Looking at nothing in particular, aware of something expanding quietly in his chest that he hadn't made room for in a long time, and wasn't sure yet what to do with. He went to bed. He slept better than he had in months. Wednesday, the contractor who owed him $400 paid him, not voluntarily. Daniel had sent a third notice formal this time with the specific language his attorney friend had advised, and the check arrived via same-day mail with no note. Just the check. Daniel deposited it, took Noah out for burgers, and didn't make a speech about it, because some victories were their own complete thing and didn't need narration. Thursday, he got a call from a property manager in Whitfield Hollow who had heard about the fence job from a neighbor. Wooden gate and 2 sections of privacy fence. Bigger job. Better money. He gave her a quote the same way he always did, honest, detailed, no padding. She hired him on the spot. He called Marcus to tell him the referral chain was working. Marcus said, "What did you do out there? Save somebody's life." Daniel said, "Just a fence." Marcus said, "Uh-huh." Friday came with a phone call he hadn't expected. Richard Hale. The number came through at 8 in the morning, and Daniel almost didn't answer because it wasn't his call to take, and he knew it. Richard had no business calling him. They'd exchanged maybe 30 words total. He answered because not answering felt like hiding. "I want to talk to you," Richard said. Man to man. Daniel was in his truck parked outside the new job site not yet started. He looked at the windshield. "About what?" "About my daughter," Richard said, "and about what's happening in that house." "I fixed a fence," Daniel said. 3 days. "You've been back," Richard said. "I have a friend in the neighborhood." Daniel felt something go carefully still inside him. Not anger. Attention. "Your friend the neighbor can tell you what I drive," he said. "They can't tell you what I'm doing there." "I'm not accusing you of anything," Richard said quickly. "I'm a father who's concerned about who's spending time with his daughter. Your daughter is 12 years old, and she's smart enough to explain your custody petition back to you in legal language," Daniel said. "She read the email, she understood it, and she chose to tell her mother instead of carrying it alone. Your concern might be better directed at the document your attorney sent." Silence. "That's not, I want what's best for Lily," Richard said. The smoothness in his voice had developed a rough edge. "Then be what's best for her," Daniel said. "She doesn't need a custody battle. She needs her father to show up the way fathers are supposed to show up. Dinner, homework, being there on a regular Tuesday when nothing special is happening. That's the job." He paused. "I know what the job is. I do it alone." A silence that lasted long enough to have weight. "You don't know anything about my relationship with my daughter," Richard said. And now there was something real in his voice, something underneath the performance. Something that might have been, if you pressed it at the base, actual pain. Daniel heard it. He shifted. "No," he said. "I don't. And that's fair." A pause. "But I know that the legal route makes Lily a territory instead of a person. And she knows the difference. She told me herself." Another silence. "She talked to you about this," Richard said, quietly. Not accusing, just absorbing. "She talks to people who listen," Daniel said. The call sat in that for a moment. "She used to talk to me," Richard said. "Before." He didn't say before what. He didn't need to. "She probably still would," Daniel said, "if the conversation wasn't coming from an attorney's office." He heard Richard breathe. In and out. The sound of a man looking at something he didn't fully want to see. "I'll think about it," Richard said. "All right," Daniel said. "The fence," Richard said suddenly. "The work you did. I drove past it." A pause. "It's good work." "Thank you," Daniel said. Richard hung up. Daniel sat for a moment. He thought about what it costs a person to call someone they've already decided to dislike and say the thing they actually mean. He thought it probably cost more than the call looked like from the outside. He got out of the truck and went to work. Chakatai. Tuesday arrived with Lily's nerves visible from across the room. She was dressed carefully, her presentation notes printed and held in a folder that she'd already reorganized twice by the time Daniel and Noah came through the gate at 6:50. Noah was in his good shoes, which he'd put on without being asked, which Daniel noted and stored quietly. "You're early," Lily said. "Always," Noah said. "The fractions thing," Lily started. "You were wrong about sevens," Noah said. I've had a week to confirm it. Multiple sources. I know, Lily said. I was going to say you were right. Noah blinked. Oh. A pause. Okay. Don't make a thing of it, Lily said. I'm not making a thing. You're doing the face. I don't have a face. You have a face, Daniel said. Both children looked at him. You do, he told Noah. It's a good face. Put it away for now. Noah put it away. Catherine was in the kitchen, and she turned when they came in, and there was a moment, brief, natural, unperformed, where she and Daniel looked at each other across the room, and the look said something that neither of them was ready to say out loud, but both of them understood. Something like this is a good thing, whatever this is. Dinner was pasta and garlic bread, and a salad that Lily had made herself slightly overdressed because she'd been nervous and put the vinaigrette in twice. Noah ate 3 helpings without mentioning the dressing. Daniel noticed and felt something swell in his chest that was specifically pride. The presentation, Catherine said to Lily. Do you want to run it once? No, Lily said. If I run it again, I'll overthink it. Smart, Daniel said. She's ready, Noah said with complete authority. I watched her practice Wednesday. She knows it. Running it again just adds doubt. Lily looked at Noah. That's the most useful thing you've said all week, she said. I have my moments, Noah said. Oh. The presentation was at the school in a room that held about 40 parents and siblings and the occasional grandparent. Lily was the 6th to present. She stood in front of a map she'd drawn herself. Daniel had learned this from Catherine, who leaned over and said it quietly. She drew the whole thing by hand. Wouldn't use a template, and she spoke about the Underground Railroad with the focused precision of someone who had done the research and found the human story inside it, and decided the human story was the part that mattered. She talked about the people who had built stations, ordinary houses who had opened doors in the middle of the night, not because it was safe, but because someone needed to open it. She talked about how those people weren't recorded in most of the official histories, how they left behind, not documents, but structures, barns with hidden rooms, cellars with false floors, fence lines that marked safe passage. Daniel went very still. He heard the fence in it. He heard Catherine's company. He heard Richard's phone call. He heard Noah explaining galvanized mesh on a Thursday afternoon, like it was the most natural thing in the world. He heard his whole life in it, the part of his life that had never been in any official record, but had held things together, at the base, had kept things from collapsing, had been the structure that let other things stand. Lily looked up at the end and found his eyes in the room. She held them for 1 second, just one. Then she looked at the room and said, "The fence line mattered as much as anything else, not because it was grand, because it was there, because someone built it and made sure it held." The room applauded. Noah beside Daniel said, "She's really good." "Yeah," Daniel said. His voice came out slightly different than usual. He hoped nobody noticed. He was fairly certain Catherine sitting on his other side noticed. She didn't say anything. She just shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, so that her shoulder was closer to his. He didn't move away. They were back at the house by 9:15. Noah fell asleep on the couch with the speed of a child who had been too excited all evening to acknowledge being tired. Daniel covered him with the blanket Lily brought without being asked. Lily went to bed at 9:30, pausing in the doorway to say, "Thanks for coming." She said it to both of them, but she looked at Daniel when she said it. "You were excellent up there," he said. "I know," she said. "But it helped that you were there." She paused. "Both of you." She went to bed. The house settled into its nighttime quiet. Catherine made tea. She made 2 cups without asking, the same way she'd made 2 coffees on Saturday morning, with the natural ease of someone who had stopped needing to ask a particular question. They sat at the kitchen table, and Daniel thought about how long it had been since he'd sat at someone else's kitchen table at 9:40 at night and felt like he wasn't in the way. "She talked about fence lines," Catherine said. "I heard." "She didn't tell me that part was in the presentation." A pause. "She wrote it after Saturday, after you left." He looked at his tea. You got to her, Catherine said. The thing you said about things that look broken not always being as broken as they seem. She wrote that in her notebook. I saw it. She got to herself, he said. I just stood nearby. You're very good at that, Catherine said, standing nearby in a way that actually helps. She paused. Most people stand nearby and make it about themselves. Most people are scared of the quiet, he said. They fill it with noise because it feels like doing something. And you? I learned the quiet was where the real stuff lived, he said. Once you stop fighting it. She was looking at him. Not the way she'd looked at him on day one, measuring, evaluating. Looking at him the way you look at something when you've already decided you trust what you see and now you're just seeing it. Richard called me today, she said. Daniel looked up. He withdrew the custody petition, she said. His attorney sent a formal notice this afternoon. A pause. He also called Lily directly. First time he's called her without a scheduled reason in 8 months. Another pause. She talked to him for 45 minutes. I know because I could hear her voice through the door. She was laughing about halfway through. Daniel nodded slowly. Did you talk to him? Catherine said. Richard. He considered his answer. He called me Friday, he said. We talked. She stared at him. What did you say? I told him that Lily talks to people who listen, he said, and that the legal route makes her a territory instead of a person. Catherine set down her mug. Daniel. It wasn't my business, he said. I know that. No, she said. No, that's not. She stopped. She pressed her hand flat on the table and looked at it. I have been trying to manage Richard through attorneys for 3 years, she said. 3 years of formal language and correct procedures and making sure every word was documented. She looked up. You called him directly and told him the truth in one conversation. Sometimes people just need someone to say it plainly, he said. The formal language lets everyone protect themselves. It doesn't let anyone be honest. You didn't have to do that, she said. For me. I did it for Lily, he said. But also, he stopped. She waited. Also, yes, he said. For you. The kitchen was very quiet. Outside, the wind moved through the trees in the yard, and somewhere along the east property line, the new fence held the boundary steady, the way it was built to do, the posts set deep, the mesh tight, the gate swinging clean on its new hinges. Catherine looked at her hands on the table. Then she looked at him. The shareholder vote is in 11 days, she said. I know. James Whitmore called me tonight. Before dinner. He's got 4 votes committed. He needs 2 more to create a blocking minority. She paused. He thinks he can get them. He'll get them, Daniel said. You don't know that. No, he said. But I know the work you've put in this week. And I know that what you built is real. Real things have a way of surviving if somebody fights for them hard enough and long enough. She looked at him steadily. Is that experience talking again? 4 months, he said. Every form, every appeal. She reached across the table. She put her hand over his. Not romantic, not dramatic, just a hand on a hand. The specific warmth of another person saying, I'm here. I see what this costs. I'm not going anywhere. He turned his hand over. She didn't pull away. They sat like that for a while in the quiet of a kitchen where the tea was going lukewarm, and a boy was asleep on the couch, and a girl was already dreaming, and outside the new fence held the line exactly as it was supposed to. I don't know how to do this slowly, she said. I've run a company for 11 years. I make decisions fast. I know, he said. But you also got up at 4:30 and made the calls and walked into the room and said the thing that was true. He paused. Fast isn't always the problem. What matters is what you're building. And what are we building? She said, directly. Because she was Catherine Hale, and she did not circle the real question twice. He looked at her hand in his. Something that holds, he said. That's all I know how to build. She was quiet for a long moment. "That's enough," she said. Noah stirred on the couch and called out for his dad in the half-asleep, half-somewhere-else voice of a child who needed to know someone was near. Daniel squeezed her hand once. He got up and went to his son. He sat on the edge of the couch and said, "I'm here." Noah settled back to sleep in 12 seconds. Daniel sat there for a minute longer. Then he came back to the kitchen. Catherine was still at the table. She hadn't moved. She'd waited. He sat back down, and whatever they were building, they kept building it quietly, the way all the best things get built, not in a single moment, but in the accumulation of small, honest ones, set deep, made to last, tested at the base, and found to hold. The shareholder vote was set for a Thursday. Daniel knew this because Catherine had told him 11 days ago, and he had counted quietly, without meaning to, the way you count towards something without admitting to yourself that you're counting. He knew it the way he knew when concrete was ready, not by the clock, but by the feeling, by the weight of the days as they passed. He was at the new job in Whitfield Hollow on Wednesday when his phone rang at 2:17 in the afternoon, and Catherine's name came up, and his hand moved to answer it faster than he'd decided to. "James got the votes," she said. He set down the wire cutter. "All of them," he said. "6 committed, 4 firm, 2 soft, but holding. The board needs a supermajority to remove me. They don't have it." A pause, and in that pause, he could hear her breathing, could hear the specific sound of a person who has been holding something enormous for 11 days and has just been told they can put it down. "They called this morning. The vote is postponed pending further review." Another pause. "Which means they lost, and they know it, and they're looking for a door that doesn't say defeated on it." "That's a win," he said. "That's a win," she said. And her voice broke on the second word. Not dramatically. Just the small, clean break of something that had been held under enormous pressure finally being allowed to release. He stood in the middle of the job site and said nothing, because she didn't need him to say anything. She needed him to be on the other end of the line, while she let herself feel the size of what had just happened. After a moment she said, "I keep waiting to feel relieved." "What do you feel instead?" "Tired," she said. "Really genuinely tired. Like I've been standing up straight for so long that I forgot I was doing it, and now my body is remembering all at once." "That's the right feeling," he said. "That's what it feels like when it's real." She laughed. Small and real and completely unguarded. "How do you know?" 4 months, he said. "Every form, every appeal." When the insurance company finally paid, I sat in the truck in the parking lot for 40 minutes because I didn't know what to do with my hands when they didn't have something to fight. She was quiet for a moment. "What did you do after the 40 minutes?" "I drove home," he said. "I picked Noah up from my neighbor's house. I made dinner. And that night after he went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table and I cried for about 20 minutes, and then I was done." "Just done. Just done," he said. "Because I'd held it long enough. And then I didn't have to anymore." Another silence. The kind that held something neither of them needed to name. "Come to dinner tonight," she said. "Both of you. I want to tell Lily in person, and I want you there when I do." "We'll be there at 6, he said. 6:30, she said. "I'm going to need a shower, and at least 20 minutes to stop shaking." 6:30, he said. She hung up. He stood in the Whitfield Hollow yard and looked at the work in front of him, and felt something move through him that was not quite joy, and not quite relief, but was adjacent to both the particular satisfaction of watching something you believed in survive the thing that was trying to end it. He picked up the wire cutter and went back to work. Lily knew before Catherine said a word. She opened the door when Daniel and Noah arrived at 6:28, took one look at her mother standing in the kitchen doorway with her eyes slightly too bright and her posture too carefully relaxed, and said, "You won." Catherine said, "We're having dinner first." "Mom." "Sit down, Lily." "Mom, you won, just say it." "I won," Catherine said. Lily made a sound that was not a word, crossed the kitchen in 4 steps, and put her arms around her mother's neck and held on. Catherine held back with the complete physicality of a woman who had been putting on armor every morning for 11 days and was now allowed to just be a mother being held by her daughter. Noah looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at Noah. "Should we—" Noah started. "Kitchen," Daniel said. "Let's find something to do in the kitchen." They found something to do in the kitchen, which was mostly standing near the counter, pretending to be interested in the fruit bowl, while the two people in the doorway took the time they needed. After a while, Lily pulled back and wiped her face with the back of her hand, with the brisk efficiency of someone who had decided that was enough of that. "Okay," she said. "Now dinner." "Now dinner," Catherine agreed, and her voice was the most ordinary it had ever sounded. No control in it, no precision, just regular human, ordinary, and it was the best Daniel had heard her sound in 2 weeks. Noah said, "What are we having?" "Pasta," Lily said. "Same as last time." "You overdressed the salad last time," Noah said. "I know," Lily said. "I'm not making salad this time." "Smart," Noah said. They made dinner together, all four of them, in the specific, comfortable chaos of people who have learned each other's kitchen habits without meaning to. Catherine at the stove, because she was particular about sauce. Lily cutting bread, because it was the job she'd assigned herself. Noah setting the table with the quiet efficiency of a boy, raised to pull his weight. And Daniel finding the things that needed doing without being told. Filling the water glasses, locating the right serving spoon, being useful in the small, invisible ways that kept everything moving. At one point, Catherine turned from the stove and found Daniel already holding the right-size pot lid and said, "How did you know I needed that?" "You were about to reach for it," he said. She took the lid. She looked at him for a half-second too long. "Thank you," she said. He went back to the water glasses. See, dinner was easy in this way that things are easy when the hard thing has passed and everyone knows it. Lily talked about a project at school. Noah talked about a boy in his class who had done something complicated with a rubber band and a cafeteria spoon that had resulted in what Noah called the most impressive trajectory he'd ever personally witnessed. Catherine asked detailed follow-up questions about the trajectory as though it mattered which was the right thing to do. It was somewhere between the pasta and the moment when Lily went to find something for dessert that Noah looked at Catherine and said completely without preamble, "Are you okay now?" Catherine looked at him. "What do you mean?" "My dad said you were fighting for something important," Noah said. "He didn't say what it was, but I could tell it was important because he was paying attention the way he pays attention when things matter." He paused. "So are you okay now?" Catherine glanced at Daniel. He raised his eyebrows slightly in the way that said, "This is what you get with him. I don't apologize for it." "I'm okay now," she said to Noah. "Yes." "Good," Noah said. He picked up his fork. "My mom built things too. Dad says she would have kept building them if she'd had more time." He said it the way he said most things about his mother directly, without flinching, with the particular clarity of a child who had decided the grief was part of the story and not something to hide around. "I think it's important when people fight for the things they build." The table was quiet. "So do I," Catherine said. "My dad fights for things quietly," Noah said. "He doesn't make a lot of noise about it, but he doesn't stop." He looked at his father. "You didn't stop, right, with the insurance." "I didn't stop," Daniel said. "I know," Noah said, and went back to his pasta with the complete satisfaction of a boy who had made his point and didn't need to underline it. Lily reappeared with ice cream and 4 spoons and said, "Why does everyone look like they're in a movie?" "Noah was being profound," Catherine said. Lily looked at Noah. Again. "It's a gift," Noah said. Chan. They stayed until 8:45, which was later than Daniel had planned, and exactly right for how the evening felt. Noah was horizontal on the couch by 8:30, not asleep, but moving in that direction, one arm over his face, making the sounds of a boy who has eaten well and is deeply content. Lily sat on the floor near him, with her knees pulled up, talking to him about something in the quiet, easy way she'd developed with him over the past 2 weeks, comfortable and low stakes. The way siblings talk, Daniel thought, and then stopped himself on the thought, and held it for a moment, and decided it didn't scare him the way he might have expected. Catherine walked him to the door. They stood in the space between inside and outside the door, open, the night air moving gently the yard behind him in the dark. And somewhere along the east property line, the fence stood exactly where he'd built it, steady and true. "I have a meeting with the board next week," she said. "Formal reconciliation, they're calling it." She said the last 2 words with the specific tone of someone who finds the euphemism mildly offensive. "I have to sit across from the people who tried to take what I built and work out the terms of them not succeeding." "Can you do that?" he said. "I can do that," she said. "I've had 11 days of practice being in the room with something difficult and not falling apart." She looked at him. "I had good coaching." "I didn't do anything," he said. "You showed up 2 minutes early every single time," she said. "You fixed things nobody else looked at carefully enough. You told my daughter the truth when she needed it. You called my ex-husband and said the thing that 3 years of legal procedure couldn't say." She paused. "And you held the post steady when I needed to check the angle." She looked at him steadily. "That's not nothing, Daniel. That's everything. That's the whole list of things that actually mattered." He looked at her and felt the weight of being seen fully by someone who was paying complete attention, the specific weight of it. How it was both more than you expected and exactly what you needed, and slightly terrifying in the way that real things are terrifying, because they cost something real. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "I told you that." "I know you did," she said. "I'm telling you the same thing back." He looked at her. "Lily's going to have opinions," he said. "About everything." "She already does," Catherine said. "Noah's going to correct people's math," he said. "Constantly. Without apology." "I've noticed," she said. "I consider it a feature." "This is going to be complicated," she said. "Real. Slow in the right places and fast in the wrong ones, and nothing like a plan." She paused. "I know. I've thought about it." Another pause. "I've thought about it a lot." "So have I," he said. She smiled. Not the professional smile, not the controlled expression, not the composure. The real one. The one that changed everything in her face and made her look like someone who had stopped managing the moment and was just living in it. "Good," she said. He took one step and kissed her once gently, the way you do something you've thought about carefully and want to do right. She kissed him back the way a woman kisses someone she has already decided she trusts, without hesitation, without performance. When they separated, she looked at him. "That took long enough," she said. "I told you," he said. "I set things deep, not fast." "I know," she said. "I was ready about 4 days ago." "I know," he said. She laughed. He smiled. The night air moved between them, and it was warm enough. 3 weeks later, Richard Hale came to the house on a Saturday. He called ahead. He brought Lily a book she'd mentioned once 6 months ago in passing, something about a girl who builds bridges. And when Lily opened the door and saw it, her face did something complicated and true. The expression of a child who realizes she has been heard by someone she'd stopped expecting to listen. "You remembered," she said. "I wrote it down," Richard said. "When you mentioned it, I wrote it down, and then I forgot about the notebook for a while." Lily looked at the book. "But you found it." "I found it," he said. Daniel was not there that day. He had the new job in Whitfield Hollow to finish, and had been learning for weeks now, that being present did not mean being at the center of every moment. Sometimes the most important thing you could do was stay out of the way and let the right people find their way back to each other. Catherine told him about it that evening on the phone. She said Lily and Richard had sat on the back steps for an hour and a half. She said she'd stayed inside because it wasn't her conversation. She said she'd made tea and drunk it standing at the kitchen counter and felt the specific, complicated gratitude of a woman watching her daughter get something she'd needed for a long time. "Did you listen?" Daniel said. A little, she said. I'm human. What did you hear? Lily told him she didn't want a custody arrangement, Catherine said. She told him she wanted a father. She said those were two different things, and she needed him to understand that before they talked about anything else. A pause. She's 12 years old. She's her mother's daughter, Daniel said. She's herself, Catherine said. That's better. The first real storm of winter came on a Friday night in November. Daniel was at the house. He was there most Friday nights, now in the easy, established way of something that has become natural without being announced. When the wind came up and the rain hit hard and fast, and Lily from her room called out, "The fence!" It was the instinct of someone who had learned to worry about the fence the way you worry about something that matters. Daniel was already pulling on his jacket. "I'll check it," he said. "I'm coming," Catherine said. "You don't have to—" "Daniel," she was already at the door. "I'm coming." They went out together into the rain and wind and crossed the yard to the east property line, and the fence was holding. Every post stood exactly where he'd set it. The mesh was tight. The gate was closed and latched, swinging slightly against the latch with each gust, but not dragging the hinges smooth and strong. He checked the posts one by one, pressing his palm against each one at the base the way he always did, feeling for the give that wasn't there. Catherine watched him do it. "It's holding," she said. "It's holding," he confirmed. "You built it to hold," she said. "That was the job," he said. She put her hand over his on the last post. Rain on both their hands, the cold of the metal underneath the solid hold of the thing they were both touching. "Not just the fence," she said. He looked at her in the rain, this woman who had fought for 11 years, and built something real, and refused to let it be taken, and had stood at the edge of her own property line, trying not to fall apart until someone showed up and asked her to hold a post steady. "No," he said. "Not just the fence." She leaned into him. He put his arm around her. They stood at the fence line in the rain, and it was cold and wet, and completely real, and neither of them moved toward the house. Inside, through the lit kitchen window, Noah and Lily were visible at the table. Lily was gesturing at something with her pencil. Noah was nodding with the concentrated expression that meant he was either deeply agreeing or preparing a counter-argument. Either way, they were there. Both of them. In the light. Daniel looked at the window for a long moment. He thought about the cold coffee and the Minecraft sticker and a 9-year-old boy pressing his palm against wood and learning what to feel for. He thought about a woman who held a post with both hands because she had decided to do the thing completely or not at all. He thought about 4 months and every form and the insurance company parking lot and 20 minutes of crying and being done. He thought about what his wife used to say about the kind of man he was, that he showed up before you knew you needed him and stayed after everyone else had left. That was the whole of it. That was the gift and the cost of it. He thought about how long he'd been ashamed of the smallness of that. He wasn't ashamed anymore. Catherine turned her face up, and the rain was on her cheeks, and she was not composed at all, and she was the most herself she had ever been in front of him, which meant she had given him something real and was not taking it back. "Come inside," she said. "In a minute," he said. She understood. She went inside. He stood at the fence alone for 1 more minute. He pressed his palm against the last post, solid, deep, not giving. He thought about Noah asleep on a couch, and Lily with her hand-drawn map, and a gate that swung perfectly now, and a woman who had fought her way back to what she built and had not let go. He thought about the things that look broken that aren't as broken as they seem. He thought about the things that look solid that you have to press to know. He thought about the difference between the two, how the whole skill of it, the whole life of it, was learning to tell which was which. He had spent 41 years building things and holding things and fixing things, and being the man nobody put in the official record, the man who showed up before the crisis and stayed after the crisis, and never asked to be recognized for any of it, because the work was its own complete thing. He had spent 4 of those years doing all of it alone. He wasn't alone anymore. He walked back to the house. He opened the door. Noah looked up from the table. "The fence okay?" "The fence is fine," Daniel said. "I knew it would be," Noah said. "You built it." Lily said, "He does that a lot. Just states things like they're facts." "They usually are," Noah said. Daniel hung up his wet jacket. Catherine handed him a dry towel and a cup of tea she'd already made, and he took both without saying anything because some things didn't need words, because they had built something between them that was past the point of needing every piece narrated. He sat down at the table, 4 people in a kitchen on a Friday night in November, rain on the windows, tea going warm, 2 children arguing amiably about something that didn't matter and everything at once. This was the life. Not the dramatic version. Not the version with a clean resolution and a bow. The real version, complicated and warm and earned, built the way he built everything. One honest piece at a time, set deep, checked at the base, made to hold. He looked around the table, Noah explaining something with his hands, Lily tolerating it with the fond impatience of someone who has decided she likes this person despite herself. Catherine watching them both with the open, undefended face of a woman who has stopped bracing for things to be taken from her. Daniel picked up his tea. Some men build fences. Some men build companies. Some men build the invisible infrastructure of other people's lives and never get a record written about them. Never get a mention in the official history. Never get the credit that the loudest person in the room collects as a matter of course. Daniel Mercer was that kind of man. And he had finally, after 41 years and 4 years of a loan, and 3 days of a fence job that became something else entirely, found the people who knew exactly what that was worth. Not because they told him, because they showed him, every day in the small, honest ways that don't make noise, but last the longest. The fence held through the whole winter, so did everything else.